Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to today's Cloud Services webinar. Our topic for today is A Layer Removed, How to Stay Front and Center with Your Customer. Our expert speaker for today is Sean Mills, President of Cloud Source Services. Sean started his technology career at AT&T. He worked for traditional VAR selling Cisco UC solutions, and he had a glimpse of the cloud business model compared to equipment resale model. And just 6 years ago, Sean founded Cloud Source with an early vision to focus exclusively on monthly recurring services, mainly telecommunication and cloud. All phone lines are in a listen-only mode, and later there will be a question and answer session with instructions being given at that time. You may also ask a question at any time using the chat window located in the control panel. Chat questions will also be answered at the end of the presentation. Today's session is being recorded, and you will be provided a copy of today's materials following the call. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Sean. Take it away.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for the intro, and thanks everybody for attending. Look forward to chatting with you guys and sharing a little bit about what we're doing and tactics we're using to stay relevant and front and center with our customers. So, again, quick agenda. I'll go over a little bit about my background, where I came from. I know Lisa just did that, but and then kind of what our business model is. And I think that's important just so you can kind of see the angle that we look at the market from, the lens that we see the market from. I think some of the things we're doing will probably apply to a lot of people out there, and some might be new, but either way, I want to keep it educational on what we're doing to stay relevant and front and center with our customers. So then go over some tactics we're using to do that, and then at the end, like she said, questions. So yeah, I'll skip to the next slide here. So a little bit about me. I know Lisa just did this, but again, I've been in the technology industry now for about 12 years, going on 13 years here. I started off with, came up through the telecommunication ranks, right? So I worked for AT&T for about 4 years or so, selling, kind of always worked in the capacity of business development, selling voice data, wide area network, and a lot of unified communications or, voice over IP solutions, right? So learned a lot of what I've learned and got my base working there. From there, I went on and worked for kind of a traditional VAR, a Cisco VAR. We sold hardware and software and also some managed IT services. So did that also for about 3 to 4 years and got a glimpse of how that worked, and learned a lot more in my career doing that. And then finally, like Lisa said, went on Cloud Source. We've been in business for about 6.5 years now. And we are, I would call ourselves a telecommunication agency and cloud services brokerage agency, right? So taking what I've done in the past and kind of building on that, and also selling other cloud services. So a little bit about my company, Cloud Source, and this isn't to just rattle on and talk about our business, but I think again it's important to see how we service the market, because it is a little bit unique than how other people do, and the lens that we see it through, and some of the challenges that we've seen in the last 6 years, we thought were applicable to the audience, and maybe they're seeing some of the same things. And so again, we were founded in 2009, about 6.5 years ago, going on 7 years, strictly with a vision of monthly recurring services, right? I'd worked for a VAR in the past. I'd seen what it took to really sell hardware and then sell the hardware and software bundled together, and have our team of technicians go out and roll it out and install it on site for clients, implement a technology solution for a customer. And it was challenging in the sense that they had a lot of engineers. I remember the company I worked for, we had 12 to 14, Cisco certified engineers on the bench at a given time. We had post, installation support technicians and a help desk and everything else to help out after the fact. So it was a very, while it was a good business, I saw it as a very capital intensive, and you always had to keep the projects and the one-time equipment sales coming in to keep the bench full of people, right? And so we started we saw things slowly shifting to a monthly recurring model, and so we started as a 100% brokerage model, which is a little bit unique. We realize not everyone on the call is going to be like us, but I think there are pieces of what we do that applies to everyone out there, in the sense that we wanted to exclusively broker services from both telecommunication providers and cloud service providers. So in that model, again, which might be a little bit unique to everyone, but I think there's pieces that we're all doing. All billing and customer support, for the most part in the brokerage model, is handled by the underlying service provider. And then how we earn a living is a percentage of that monthly spend that the customer, pays their monthly bill to that service provider. A percentage of that monthly spend is passed on to us from the service provider. So we're kind of on the back end. We make our money. We earn a piece of the monthly recurring revenue for the life. Generally, all of our agreements are structured with our service providers for the life of the service. We earn a percentage of that monthly recurring spend that they have with that service provider. So hopefully that gives you an idea of where we're coming from. So a little bit more on that. I mean, we've seen the pros and cons of a brokerage model. Is kind of lead into the meat of this talk today. But I think in doing both in my career, I think the brokerage model, the margins are probably a little bit less, 10 to 20% versus if you private label or maybe own your own solution, that the monthly profit margins are a little higher if you have your own. But on the flip side, like I said, we need a lot less staff. We need a lot less engineers and technicians and help desk people to really staff our business compared to a model of other competitors and other peers out there in the industry. Again, having a wide array, we like being in the brokerage model because it gives us a wide array of products and solutions to offer. We don't just have one that we deliver to the market. We value finding the right solution across a wide array of options out there for our clients. But the big one here is the last one I want to talk about is we hear this from a lot of our peers, and we noticed this a lot, I think, early on when we made the shift from where I used to work to where I am today, is that when you're purely brokering someone else's, I'll call it a third-party, service or cloud service provider, there's ultimately less control after the implementation is done of the customer experience than maybe some of us are used to. In the sense that the revenue stream, like in our model at least, the revenue, the billing relationship is between the customer and that third-party service provider that you recommended, and not with you anymore. As well as sometimes the customer support, right? So I've had a lot of my peers talk about this privately, and I think here in the cloud service community, it's come up too. I've seen it, so we thought it was good to do a talk on what am I doing, what have I seen in order to stay kind of relevant front and center when this model is shifting to more of using these third-party cloud service providers. How do you still stay engaged with your client? So back to what I was saying on this next slide. I mean, I think that the big underlying theme that I hear a lot of my peers, competitors, or just people I've known in the industry for a while that I call friends have said, when they look at my model of doing it, or if they're dabbling in my model of doing it themselves, they're saying, I really don't like the brokerage model because it's kind of a shift in control, right? I just don't feel like I have the control that I have when I bill a client for my own service, right? This movement to a monthly recurring utility model is leading ultimately to more and more infrastructure, hardware, software being off-site in some data center in this cloud service provider's data center, and not on-premise and not in our control as technology support advisors for our clients. So they're saying, hey, how do I stay relevant? How do I stay in front of the client and stay important to them when I'm really selling someone else's service, right? So the roles are changing, right? I think there's still no doubt IT professionals that are experienced that are needed on-site. I think there still needs to be this liaison between the end user and the ultimate, in technology that they're using. we still find in our business that we add a tremendous amount of value prior to a technology change, right? I mean, that is probably where we at least think we're the knight in shining armor, right? We show up at a time when a company is exploring making a possible technology change. Hey, we think, this infrastructure is outdated, it's end of life, we need to make a change. They bring us in to help us evaluate the site readiness, evaluate the overall readiness for the business for a new change. We help in the vendor selection process. We help bring, the 2, 3, maybe 4 vendors to the table that might be able to help solve this problem that they've got, that they need to address. We ultimately help our clients choose the right solution at the end based on their needs. And then we help with, we'll help project manage the technology change, and then kind of stand by them, hold their hand through that change. And then usually for that first month or two after, we're still pretty involved, making sure everyone knows how to use it really well, and they're trained on the new product or service. But after that, with less IT infrastructure on site, in some cases, a lot of the heavy lifting from that point is done by that third-party cloud service provider. We'll call it a CSP for today's talk. But in our model, that's what happens. We tend to like it that way. It allows us to really help in that value-added front end of the process. But other people have been very uncomfortable with it. They just feel like they don't have a place maybe in the customer's environment like they used to. Like I said, support, billing, and just many aspects of control have shifted, right? So for us, we found it somewhat refreshing in that we don't have to staff a big support staff, and billing, can be challenging, right? You need people, and you need software, and you need a process to help, make sure bills are getting paid and accounted for. But it is a big change, I think, overall, and how we've supported our clients over the years, we as a community, I'll say. So what are some tactics we're using in this? We've kind of dove headfirst into, these cloud solutions and embraced it. So what are some tactics we've done and used to stay front and center with our clients when we're kind of a layer removed after they're using the service? So I'll go through 4 points here. So the first one, might seem obvious, but we still like to do monthly or quarterly, some sort of account checkup and account review with the clients after a new technology is rolled out to them. I think it's going to be case by case for you, depending on the size of the client, the revenue you're generating from the client, and just how much help they need. But some sort of check-in, monthly, quarterly, maybe every 6 months, to sit down. It's a reoccurring, thing we'll put on the calendar with the client that we're going to talk. Maybe it's for 15 minutes a month. Maybe it's for an hour or two every month. But let's talk about how's the service going. Have you had any issues? Let's review how many trouble tickets you've had in the last month. Are there any end-user sort of training, issues that people just aren't grasping how to use the technology? Are there things we can help escalate? Normally, us being authorized, reseller of these cloud services, we can sometimes escalate a problem that they might have a hard time getting done themselves with the support staff. Just overall account review, it helps remind them that we're there and we can help. It keeps us engaged in the account. So those are the reasons we're doing it. The other kind of hidden reason I guess we're doing it too is that, in most of these relationships, like I said, we have set up, if they stop using the service, if they're dissatisfied and they kind of end up leaving and getting rid of the service without us knowing, well, our revenue stream is gone. So the other motivation is to make sure that the work we did on the front end holds true for a long, long time, and that's kind of the motivation for us to stay involved as well. But of course, these monthly, quarterly check-in or account reviews also, of course, lead to other upsell, cross-sell, or just other problems in the business that we can help solve problems with, and gets us deeper and wider with our clients. So the next one is contract renewal negotiations and just overall contract management. So this one depends. It depends on the customer again and the size and what all they're doing, but a lot of these services, especially in the telecommunications space that we play in a lot, have a hard contract expiration date. It might be a 3-year term, 2 or 3 or 4-year term, or whatever. So we keep very detailed notes of when our clients' contracts are coming up for renewal. We remind them, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 3 months prior to their contract expiration, telling them, hey, Mr. Customer, your contract's coming up for XYZ service you've got here. Just a reminder, we help you set it up in the beginning. Are you happy with things? Do you want to shop around and look at migrating off this platform? Do you want to, just kind of keep it rolling month to month? Or do you want to go back to the service provider and maybe renegotiate get a better rate for the next 3-year term? So we help with that. We like to think we're really good at that. I'd say get good at that. I think that's a way to add value that we are doing this every week, every month for clients. We know the going rate. We know how to sometimes negotiate and work with these vendors where our clients that maybe aren't doing it that often just don't know. They don't always know the going rate and what they should be paying. So get in there and do that. I mean, I'm thinking of one client we have that has about 15 different office locations, and they've got, dual internet connections in every office, and some voice over IP solutions in the offices too. And it's at a point with them where they've got as many as 30 different contracts that are all staggered and expire at different times and dates. And so we've got this pretty elaborate spreadsheet and system built where we're constantly notifying them of contract expiration renewals, and just kind of becoming an arm of their team, help them manage those vendor contracts and relationships, because they just aren't doing it as well on their own as they would like to, right? So we had a tremendous value there, and I think the more and more we see, people are not just having one cloud service or one technology service. There's many, and so I think there's money to be made, and I think there's value to be added in that category. The third one is just overall. This doesn't apply again to everyone, but overall, keeping your customers informed with kind of goes in the category of training. We have a newsletter that goes out that tries to educate our existing clients on the product or service that they're using. We also host webinars. There's a certain, hosted or unified communications, voice over IP solution that we happen to sell a lot of, but we have a ongoing monthly sort of tips and tricks webinar that we call it, where we kind of a standing monthly call that clients that are already using the service can get on there, and we educate them on tips and tricks of how to better utilize the service and all the features and bells and whistles that come with it. Goes back to getting people engaged and using the product. I think we found, the deeper you can get people embedded in using these technologies and these services, the more sticky they are. And the more sticky it is, the better it is for us, and the more they're using it and the more they're using these bells and whistles too, we like to think the more productive our client's going to be too. And that's the whole reason they're using these technologies in the first place a lot of times. But overall, just end-user training, whether it's through, like I said, webinars, on-site visits, and helping clients overall adopt and use the service more is a big one we do a lot of. And the last one I want to talk about, it's kind of in that same category, I suppose, is training, but just kind of overall becoming, I think we had to become really good at becoming a change management expert. As much as all of us on the call who are maybe more technical like to think this stuff's easy to understand and it's easy to use, many of our clients aren't that technical. A lot of them are just average people that don't understand the technology. I think there's a big human or people element to our world that I've seen a big shift in the last maybe 5 years, just that there's more and more applications that are creeping into our business life that we have to use to stay productive, efficient, and just helping be that liaison between the people who are using the technology and that end, technology, hardware, software. So there's still like this big expertise in becoming a change management expert. And sometimes it's identifying which one of your clients are maybe slower to adopt technologies. You got to take them slower, and you can't throw a lot of new things at them at once and introduce new technologies and migrations to them at a slower pace because they're just not going to grasp it. And then knowing which ones are fast and really quick adapters. And then also just being on site, being local, and being very kind of being that just human being with them that helps them through, holds their hand through the migration to these new technologies is a big part. I see a lot of people, I think, and a lot of these bigger third-party technology service providers missing the boat on, right? They still need this local hand-holding type of person with them to guide them through this, that I think there's money to be made there. I think there's really value to be added there. And just being the human element, I think we cannot forget about, is one thing that's missing, I think, still a lot today that we've all got to get good at, and we've gotten better at here, I think, but still have work to do, right? So the next slide, I mean, that first slide I just went through there, or the last one, I guess, was more just tactics and, things that we're doing. But, there's overall, I think, bigger strategies, too, we could talk about of how to stay front and center as more of these technologies and infrastructure move off-site. So the first one might be obvious that, we don't do it, but I'm sure other people on this call do, and I know a lot of our peers do, is, private labeling a solution, right? Just because some third-party cloud service provider has this elaborate solution built in multiple data centers, doesn't mean that we can't private label it or white label it as our own and sell it to our clients, right? So if none of those things in the prior slide were really hit home with you, and you still want to have that billing relationship with the client, I mean, let's not discount, private labeling a solution. There's still a lot of our clients, a lot of our peers who do this. We chose not to. Again, we wanted to stay nimble and kind of stay where we didn't need as deep of a bench. I think private labeling a solution does require you usually to have more kind of on-site, installation technicians and project managers probably. But also, usually when you private label, they expect you to take a lot of the tier one kind of first level support calls. So again, we chose that we didn't want to do that. But I think for those that want to stay in the middle of this and want to earn revenue off doing some of that and just stay involved, keep that billing relationship in there. I mean, there's hundreds of service providers that are looking for people to private label their products and solutions. So certainly that's a strategy we see quite a bit as a way to stay involved. The second one is something that we're starting to do more over the last year or two is creating a managed service, whether it's a fixed monthly fee, a time and material fee, or maybe a one-time annual fee, where you would perform the moves as changes or solve general, technology issues for them with the third-party cloud service provider, right? So maybe the billing is still coming from ABC, cloud service provider, but since you're the one who helped them implement it and set it up, they feel more comfortable just coming to you for support and making moves as changes, administration changes, where you are the one who picks up the phone or opens up the ticket with that provider. And so I think in the beginning, we didn't do that. And then we realized, clients still wanted to call us. Clients still felt more comfortable just calling us and having us do that support. And so little by little, we've introduced, fees and support processes and kind of annual or monthly, management fees for that, right? And it gets us back in there then. We like those because, again, it gets us back in there having a billing relationship with the client. And keeps us engaged, right? I mean, the more we're talking to them, the more we become a part of their team, the more sticky I think we are, and the more we learn about other facets of the business that we can help with over time. So it's a good one. It's been a good one for us in the last year or two. The third one here on this page is you could still build your own cloud solution with some sort of underlying application at the core of the solution as a way to compete with some of these cloud service providers, right? I mean, there's a few peers I'm thinking of in the market here. I'm based in Chicago that are doing this, where they just found that, someone was offering up a straight one-time hardware software solution, or offering up their own cloud service solution, and they felt like they could take that application, put it in a co-location facility, and kind of build out their own small data center here in the local Chicago market, and they could compete and kind of create their own cloud service around an application and do it better, less expensive, and more nimble than one of the big guys, and they're competing directly with it, using the underlying application at the core. And so that's certainly more capital intensive. I mean, again, something that we want to stay away from, because I think it gets back into, you need engineers and technicians and all of a sudden support staff and people around it. But I do think the margins are good in that area if you can do that and want to do that. It is harder, I think, sometimes to compete with, the big guys who have, 12 data centers that are all mirrored with each other, and you might only have one or two if you're smaller, but if you do the service better, I've seen it work for some peers, and it is a way to stay kind of front and center and keep that billing relationship with clients too. So I think you've got to decide if that's right for you. But so overall, I mean, the last one, this might sound obvious, but I think overall it just comes back to partnering with the right cloud service provider, just partnering with the right technology vendor, introducing the right technology vendor or service to your clients. It is a way to stay front and center and relevant, right? I mean, in our world, when we brokered some solutions in there, some of our clients, they go back, our first ones 5 or 6 years ago, we brought them a new product or service 5 or 6 years ago, and they're pretty self-sufficient. Once we introduced the technology, they were able to administer it, manage it all on their own. They really haven't needed us much since then. And when I call them, they still remember me really well, and more, not because I've been super involved, but more just because we helped them find the right solution that solved their business problem. So I think that, more than anything, might sound obvious and simple, but I think if you do right by people, they're going to remember that, and they're going to stick with you and call you again when they have another problem that needs solved, later on. So that sums it up. I mean, that's want to keep it somewhat short and sweet. That's what we're doing to help, again, stay relevant, stay front and center with our clients in this shifting, world where things are moving more off-site. So I'll open it up for questions. Here's my, contact information. I'm based here in Chicago. If any of you are in Chicago and want to chat and get together, or just happy to meet peers in the industry, or feel free to reach out to me by phone or email here too. But in the meantime, I'll open it up for questions. I know the chat panel's been open. I don't know, Lisa, I think you have control of that. Have you seen any questions in that, or I don't know if people can ask over audio as well?
Yep. Actually, the first question came in from John. He asked, what does MAC stand for? M-A-C-S.
Yeah, MAC. So move, add, changes. So I'll use an example. We sell a lot of, hosted or cloud-based voice over IP solutions, and so a lot of people call it a MAC, a move, add, or change. Once the solution is installed, when we install a new cloud-based voice over IP solution, sure enough, a month later, they add a new employee and they need to add a new phone extension or phone to the network. So a lot of people call it a MAC, a move, add, or change, or change, right? Maybe they've fired, one employee and they need to replace that phone extension with a new employee they hired. And so it's maybe a change to one of the extensions. So that's, sorry for the acronym, but yeah, move, add, or change.
Okay, and then John followed up with, what is a reasonable monthly fee? And are you talking about hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars?
Yeah, that's a magic question that I wish, I knew the exact answer to. It totally depends on, I think, the product or service. It depends on the size of the customer, and it depends on how many users they have, right? I mean, we've had to toy around with this a lot ourselves to figure it out. So it's really hard without knowing what products and services John is selling to know. But I mean, I think for us, we sell a lot of hosted or cloud-based voice over IP solutions, right? So For us, we've charged, in the neighborhood of a couple dollars a month per phone, right? If they have 50 phones or phone extensions in the office, a couple, $2, $3 a month, per phone extension, has been one we felt like there was an appetite for, that people were willing to pay for. Sometimes I've done it by a monthly fee. Sometimes I've done it by a one-time annual fee. I sort of forecast out for the year. Sometimes it's easier to get people to pay for a whole year up front and then getting that bill from us every month. But it totally depends on the product or service, and it depends on the size of the client, and it depends too, I think, on if they have an IT. We sell to some mid-sized companies who already have their own IT department in-house. So, we had a lot of value of helping them on the front end, but after that, they have people with it. They're not willing to sometimes pay us anything for that because that's their job. They feel like it's to administer and manage the account after that. So it's been a mixed bag, definitely something we've had to play around with depending on the product or service.
Okay, great. All right, next question. Do you charge clients for the things mentioned, like the regular account reviews?
Yeah, so it's varied, right? I mean, I think one advice I would give as a nugget is I think if you're going to do it, it's important to introduce what those fees are going to be up front before the technology is implemented, right? One of the challenges we had in the beginning is that we'd roll out a new technology to somebody, and then 6 months later, we'd come back to them and say, hey, for X amount per year or per month, we'll also do an account review and help you. And we'd already been doing it for free for 6 months, and they're like, well, you've already been doing this for free. How are you going to charge me for it now? And so we've learned over time, if you're going to try to do it, I think it's important to show them that cost before they roll out the technology. It's easier for them to swallow, but it's case by case, so we try to present it to them up front before they roll out the technology. And if they decline it, then we don't do it as much. We don't do it as in depth. It's all case by case too. I mean, I think for some of our really large clients, if they have enough, if we're earning enough revenue on the products or service we've sold them, it's in our best interest to just do an account review every month or every quarter at no cost, because we just want to stay that engaged in the account, or the revenue we're earning is that great, where it's worth it to us.
All
case
right.
by case.
Thanks, Sean. And we do have one last question that just came in. How willing are your customers to pay for your support services for a cloud service that already includes customer support?
Yeah. Good question. I think it's kind of along the lines of what John asked earlier, but like I said, I think if you're going to do it, if you do it and present it up front as part of the decision-making process before they select the technology, it's easier for them to swallow because they were notified that there was going to be, a cost to help support that. But yeah, that is a question we get, especially from companies that, on the mid-size or above that have their own IT department already. They're kind of looking at me and saying, well, why would I pay you for support when this, cloud service that I'm going to buy already has a help desk? Can I just, part of the service, can I just call them for support? And the reason that people have been willing to pay for it when they do pay for it is because a lot of times, anybody that maybe in the Microsoft Office 365 world, right? Sometimes calling these technology vendors, if you're not an IT person, you don't know how to speak the IT language to their help desk. Sometimes you have to be able to speak IT, and if it's, maybe just an office manager in the office that's trying to call Microsoft and get support on something, that if they don't know the right things to ask or say or the right terminology, they're just going to have a really hard time. It's just frankly easier sometimes to turn it over to us and let us open up the support tickets for them, because we know how to speak the language. Or we see in the telecom world too, we know how to speak, voice and data and talk about circuits and up, down, and what we're seeing a lot easier than maybe the average person in the offices when they call in to open up a help desk ticket or trouble ticket. So it is case by case. I'd say the more sophisticated their IT staff is, the less likely they are to pay us for it. But if they have no IT staff, then yeah, they're more likely to to be willing to pay us for it. So.
Okay. And John also said, great job, and thanks for the webinar. And I think those are that's the last question. So, pardon me, thank you, Sean, for offering your time and sharing your knowledge with us. And also thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending the webinar today. Please do take a few moments and fill out your post-event survey. Your input is very important to us. This does conclude today's conference, and you may now disconnect. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you. Take care.